this is Debra Carmona. We are going to make characters for a complete nativity scene.
This is part 4 in my series of making your own tabletop nativity scene.
So we're taking junk and turning it into treasure. I love doing that. That's just one of my fun things to do.
In part 1, I showed you how to make the body forms from soap bottles, cardboard, from cereal boxes, pipe cleaners, and egg forms for the heads. In part 2, I showed you how to make your own patterns to fit the body forms and some tips on choosing the right fabrics and some tips on organizing this whole project. Part 3, I gave you the recipe for the DIY fabric stiffener and showed you how to drape the fabrics on the body forms.
It's, plastic. We don't need to be throwing away plastic. If we could find another use for plastic, that's a good thing. So we're recycling it and making it into something useful and beautiful that we can, set up a little personalized nativity scene at Christmas time. All right, let's get into it.
In this video, I will share some tips on fashioning the hair, beards, head covers, hats to finish off the body forms and show you what materials I use to make the wise men's gifts. I'll even give you a sneak peek at the painting job of the faces. Their costumes are hardened after sitting overnight. I opted to use decorative and ornate fabrics for the wise men to reflect wealth, since they were giving expensive gifts like gold, frankincense, and myrrh. I assumed they were men of some means. For Joseph and the shepherds, I chose plain plaid fabrics with white tunics. It is now time to add head hair and facial hair. For some, I used felt or a short layer of fur. I cut my piece of fabric. I'm attaching the hair with Gorilla Glue. You can also use tacky glue. Dry fitting before I glue anything. The reason I'm not using the fabric stiffener is because I wanted to maintain the texture feel of fuzzy hair, because I decided to make this set for one of my granddaughters. This way she can feel their soft hair and it will be soft and not hard. I paint the head form with glue using a flat brush, then apply the pre-cut pieces of felt or fur. We're working around a spherical object, so it takes a little fitting, cutting, and piecing to cover the portion that needs to be covered. I dry fit each piece before gluing. It doesn't have to be perfect because they will all have some sort of a head covering anyway. Next, I cut a beard. As an afterthought, I realized that I needed sideburns to come down and meet the beard. You need a good pair of fabric scissors to cut the felt or the fur. Once I'm satisfied with the shape of my pieces, I apply the glue, then attach the pieces. Then I added a mustache. For this shepherd guy, I'm using a thicker piece of felt which almost resembles fur. It makes me think of curly hair. I tried something different with the back of the head. I cut points that could taper into a point, keeping the hair to almost one piece of fabric. Then I felt his hairline was too high, so added a little piece to give him a better shape. Notice how I cut out the space that would be an ear. I do not add ears. The blank space will indicate ears. Being my second bearded face, I did a better job with the beard. This time I included the sideburns and kept the mustache attached by simply cutting out a hole for the mouth. Of course, it has to be the right shape hole. That was much easier to manage. Now look at this strange shape. This will be the head of hair. I don't really know how to tell you how to cut the shape, but hey, it all went on as one piece. I did need to do a little bit of trimming on it though. It's better to cut too big than too small. See how the fabric holds its shape? The fabric stiffener that I used in the last video hardened the fabric so it keeps its shape. For this guy, I decided to make a smaller beard with no sideburns because variety is good. It is more like a goatee and a mustache. I do a lot of fitting, then cutting, and checking the piece each time I make a cut. Since it is small, I put the glue on the hairpiece before applying it to the face. For this wise man, I'm thinking he should be an old man of wisdom, so I chose gray felt for the hair. I start with a pretty big piece. I drape it and cut it as I think it needs to be cut to find the shape that I want. I think I'll give him long hair and a little goatee for a beard. That took me almost 10 minutes to get the right fit. The gold wise man makes me think Chinese, so he needed a different sort of hat. I used two of the fabrics that are in his costume to fashion the hat. The top is semi-triangular pieces sewn together that almost make a dome or a thimble shape. I stuffed that. The other piece is cut like a donut. I sewed two pieces right sides together on the outer circle, then clipped the curves and then turned inside out. I had to hand sew the top and to the bottom rim. I put a little bit of stuffing in it, but it seemed much too fat, so I removed the stuffing. The fabric was thick enough by itself. Does he look like a Chinaman? For the black and gold wise man, I was thinking he came from the country of India, so he needed to have a turban. The shiny gold fabric would make a good-looking turban. I went to YouTube, watched a couple of videos on how to make a turban, and then I tried to downsize it to make a small turban. It wasn't perfect, but it is interesting. In working with small things, sometimes you can only do it with a needle and thread. The folds didn't stay as folds, so when I added some stuffing, the hat was much taller than I wished it to be. Oh well. I don't want to try it again, so it'll have to do. I finished it off with a decorative button because that was a good way to pull the fabric together in the front. It improved the look of the hat, or turban. Now for the shepherd head covering. I'm using fabric stiffener because I don't want to make another batch of cornstarch solution since I don't have much to do now. I dispensed the solution and spread it with my brush to saturate the fabric. I made a headband from the same fabric as his tunic. It is tied in a knot after the first fitting. I don't think I saturated the fabric enough, so it wasn't laying the way I wished it to. So I added more fabric stiffener to weight the fabric to help me make better folds. You may notice his hair is almost a red color. His hair was made with some short hair fur that I had purchased for making animals. I gave him no beard because he's a shepherd boy, one of the smaller bottles. This store-bought fabric stiffener isn't working as well as my homemade solution. that I shared in the last video. So I had to resort to using pins to help hold the fabric in the position that I desired. That works. For Joseph's head covering, I wanted to have a different look with a wrap around his front and thrown over his shoulder. So I have a long rectangular piece of fabric. This time I covered both sides of the fabric. I folded over the front edge to make a clean hem. I want his left side to be shorter and his right side long enough to come around the front to cross over the opposite shoulder. I created some folds, twisting the fabric some, then used pins to hold in the position that I wanted it to be. Now for Mary's head covering. Her headpiece seemed to fall naturally into the right position with very little assistance. Now I will let them sit overnight to fully harden. The next day I removed the pins. Some of them were hard to pull out, so I had to use needle nose pliers to grab and pull them out. I am pleased that everything is staying in place. I did opt to paint the faces, but you can leave them plain. I am an artist, so I tried to give them each a personality. While my daughter was visiting, she wanted to take advantage of my paint supply and brushes to paint the gift that I had just given her. So I also took that time to paint. We could visit, talk, and paint all at the same time. I used acrylic paint and painted the faces with a toothpick. The wise men gifts were made with wood. The chest was made from a wood block that I stained with wood. I put 2 tiny screw hooks on each side for handles, then painted the handles, hinges, and latch with gold metallic paint. I used a stamp from my card making to make the design on top of the chest. One was a block. One was a picture that I added 2 beads to make a cover. The other was a spool with a bead glued on top. I used a toothpick down through the bead to help give stability to the glued pieces. I drilled small holes with a hand drill to insert a wire to fashion handles. I've been visited by 3 cats. 2 of them have got paint on their tails.
It's just one's got paint on it.
Yes, this one got red paint on her tail, and Carlotta got white paint on her tail.
I have a video series on this whole project, a separate video showing how I made the manger crib and the tabletop display. I think I may have posted a video about making the chickens. Please comment if you're interested in a video tutorial about making the other animals, sheep and cows. You will find all my videos of this project on my playlist, Christmas Activities. Thanks for watching.